like Begum Atiya Nayatullah, Mr. Javed Jabbar, and many others. If I keep listing the names, it will take a lot of time. But I think it is very important for us to recognize people and citizens who have contributed in these causes throughout their lifetimes. Thank you very much for the earlier speakers who have elaborated tremendously on the issues that we are facing in the area of population. It is actually I find it a little difficult when I say that issue of population to begin with, because population is a great asset at the same time, but if we do not manage it properly, it can also become liability. And I think that's what our challenge is, that how we can switch from this notion of liability to asset. More people is not a problem, but the welfare of the people, of the very same people, is a bigger problem. And I would avoid to share with you a lot of statistics, because the only thing which has improved in many of our social areas is our statistics. The issues have also deteriorated at the same time. Other day I was at the launching of the National Nutritional Survey, and I said that the only thing which I see improving in the area of nutrition is the quality of service. But the state of nutrition and the implications of malnutrition have either stagnant or it has deteriorated. Same is true in the area of population. But the World Population Day serves to remind us of the need and the significance of addressing the multifarious dimensions of the population question. This year, the theme of the World Population Day is 25 years of international conference on population and development, accelerating the promise. And this theme is an apt reminder that the nations which have lagged behind must now accelerate their progress to finish their unfinished agendas. And our goalpost has been actually getting farther and farther in the case of Pakistan. I said that I will not repeat statistics, but I'm compelled to mention two things. First, that I was startled first time as a student of public health when I learnt that at the time of the creation of Pakistan in 1947, our population was 32 million. Imagine, just 32 million. And we have, if I'm not wrong, doubled our population more than 6 times. From 32 million in 1971, we became 65 million. Despite of, after that, doubling actually excludes one part of Pakistan. And despite of that, we redoubled in 1998, rather quadrupled, by becoming 132 million. And in 2017, when we had last years, we became 208 million. So that's one area we have been working very hard to increase our numbers. But at the same time, we have not paid enough attention to the welfare and the capital that population is by properly investing in it and by properly caring about it. And the second statistic which also startled me is that in Pakistan today, a woman on average can have 3.6 children. And this number is double the number that we have in our neighbors in Islamic Republic of Iran. And this number, and you would understand it when I say this, and I will not elaborate, and don't ask me to elaborate, but this number 3.6 has also gone beyond the number which is in Saudi Arabia right now, which is, I think it is 2.8. So we have serious problem. So instead of further divulging into the statistics and the depth of the problem, let's come to an action. And I'm by nature as an activist, and I'm more action-oriented person. And I'm really honored and privileged to be part of a team under the leadership of the Prime Minister Imran Khan, who himself is the greatest activist. And these issues are at his heart. So one of the first few institutional reforms in the government sector, in the public sector, that he started with by giving this assignment to famous Dr. Ishrat Hussain was to, first of all, integrate the health sector with the population sector. So at least at the federal level, population and health are now two sides of the same coin, with unified command in the same ministry, and same people are thinking about these issues, which means that our policies will also be translated into an integrated approach through which the family planning services will be made available at the primary healthcare level by same people, same supply chain mechanisms, with the same vigor. And since this government has taken up the reins of governance, there have been many actions which have been taken, and many to come. Our Honorable Supreme Court also, under the leadership of the last Chief Justice, took action. A task force was formed of all the worthy people that you can think of in Pakistan. Very experienced people, years of experience of looking at these issues, and they came up with a set of recommendations. And at the same time, it was decided that we need to also change our narrative about population by bringing a sense of responsibility and tawazun, a balanced approach between these two constructs of population being an asset and population being a liability. And who could be better than Mr. Javed Jabbar to take on this very tedious task to develop a new narrative for Pakistan, which is now available and which will be launched. So one of the recommendations of that task force was to take up this issue at the Council of Common Interests, because the importance of the issue so merited. And this issue was then taken up by the CCI, and it endorsed with a little perhaps incremental or marginal, I should say, input. It endorsed those recommendations. And I think what is very important is for all of us on this day of World Population to understand the future roadmap of our country for our people with reference to those recommendations. Because each one of us has a role to play in it. Population question cannot be left to the government alone, let alone to the Ministry of Health and Population or to the Ministers of Health and Population. Each one of us has to play a role. It's a societal question. However, government has a responsibility to give a roadmap, to give a direction, allocate resources, and ensure that what is being agreed gets implemented. So in a very short time, what I would like to do is to just read out those recommendations to you, because I think that would be the best tribute on this World Population Day to remind ourselves that what needs to be done and what has been thought best that we must be doing. So out of 8 recommendations, the first recommendation of this task force is to establish a national and provincial task forces for steering, providing oversight and taking critical decisions to reduce population growth, lower fertility rate and increase contraceptive prevalence rate. Currently our CPR is 34%. And our aim is to increase it to at least 50% by 2030. And I think it is doable. If we put our efforts together and we continue with the commitment that we have started, it is absolutely possible, and inshallah we will make it possible. So as far as this task force is concerned, this was the first recommendation. This task force has already been formed, and its first meeting was actually planned to be held on 8th of July, but for some reasons of urgency, of commitment, it has been postponed. But in next 2-3 weeks it is going to happen, the first meeting of this task force, which is actually the highest forum on this issue. This task force is chaired by the Prime Minister, all ministers and all federal ministers of almost all ministries. It's a mini cabinet meeting actually, if you think about it, because the Federal Minister of Education and Federal Minister of Law and Federal Minister of Finance and Federal Minister of Health and this goes on and on. It's a mini cabinet which will be happening on this when the first meeting of this task force takes place. And one of the most important things, one of the earliest agenda point of this task force will be to adapt a national action plan for population, because that's from where you get productivity gains and that's from where you get economic growth. If we do not invest in human capital, we cannot go very far, and we will keep turning this potential asset of population into a bigger and bigger liability. So from the government perspective, we are very much committed, very much informed, and very much prepared to take all those actions which needs to be taken in this area. The task force that I mentioned also requires development of these task forces at provincial level, and some provinces have already made those task forces and others are in making of those task forces. So it would be a very wide, government-wide, society-wide action, and these 8 pillars of this framework will help us to take us forward. I thank you very much for your attention.